The stone floor of the armory sucks the heat straight out of your bare feet. It is an hour before dawn, a time when the world is nothing but gray shadows and bitter draughts. The air here smells of three distinct things: rancid olive oil, cold iron, and the pervasive sour scent of unwashed men. You are standing in your small clothes, shivering uncontrollably, waiting for the ritual of the dressing to begin. This is not the romanticized armoring scene from a film, where a handsome hero is effortlessly clad in shining plates by a dutiful servant. This is a slow, suffocating industrial process. You are not a hero. You are a soft biological component about to be encased in a hard shell, and the process is going to hurt. You probably wouldn't last long here. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Go ahead and comment your location and your local time. Let's mark this quiet vigil together across the dark. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You look at the pile of equipment waiting on the bench. It represents a fortune, the equivalent of a modern luxury car or a small house laid out in pieces. But before you can touch the metal that cost you your inheritance, you must put on the laundry. Your squire, a boy of 14 with sleep in his eyes and dirt under his fingernails, hands you the first layer. It is not a shirt. It is the gambeson, sometimes called an akiton or an arming doublet. To the untrained eye, it looks like a heavy winter coat, quilted in vertical lines. To you, it looks like a portable sauna. It is made of linen layer upon layer of it. In some places, it is stuffed with raw wool, horsehair, or even old rags packed so tight they could stop a knife. It is stiff, heavy, and already warm to the touch. You slide your arms into the sleeves. The fit is tight. It has to be. If the gambeson is loose, the armor you put over it will shift and chafe, rubbing your skin raw until you are bleeding into your own socks. So, it hugs you. It compresses your chest. It feels less like clothing and more like being swallowed by a very aggressive duvet. You fasten the front. There are no zippers, no Velcro. Just laces and buttons, endless little toggles that require nimble fingers. Your squire fumbles with them. You stand there, staring at the wall, feeling the immediate rise in your body temperature. The purpose of this garment is twofold. First, it is the mounting system. The shiny plate armor you are so proud of cannot just hang on your body. It would slide off your shoulders. It needs to be tied down. The gambeson is covered in arming points little leather strings sewn directly into the fabric at the shoulders, elbows, and hips. These are the anchors. You are essentially putting on a suspension bridge for steel. Second, and more importantly, the gambeson is your shock absorber. When a sword hits a breastplate, the metal stops the edge. It prevents you from being cut in half. But it does not stop the energy. The physics of a mace or a warhammer is simple. Kinetic energy travels through the metal and into the meat underneath. Without the gambeson, a strike to your helmet would crack your skull, even if the helmet didn't break. A blow to the ribs would shatter them. You are wrapping yourself in a textile bruise dampener, but the protection comes at a cost. The linen does not breathe. It is a dense, insulatory barrier. As you stand there, simply waiting for the next piece, you feel the first trickle of sweat run down your spine. It is trapped. There is nowhere for the moisture to go. And then there is the smell. You have worn this gambeson for 3 weeks straight on the campaign trail. You cannot wash it. If you wash it, the wool stuffing might clump, or the linen might shrink, and then your custom-fitted armor won't fit anymore. So you simply let it ripen. It smells of your sweat, yes, but also of the horse you ride, the wood smoke of the campfires, and the unmistakable copper tang of old blood that never quite scrub it out of the hem. It is a biological record of your month, and the title of that record is Fermented Misery. You notice a small itch near your left armpit. You try to scratch it, but the quilting is too thick. You know what it is. The seen squirrels, lice. They live deep in the stuffing, warm and protected, feasting on you while you wait to fight the French. There is a bleak humor in the fact that you have spent hundreds of gold crowns on defense, yet you are currently losing a war against a bug the size of a grain of sand. The squire pulls the laces tight at the waist. Too tight, you grunt. He loosens it a fraction. It is a delicate balance. Too loose, and the weight of the leg armor will drag the jacket down, strangling your hips. Too tight, and you won't be able to breathe when you start running. You flex your arms. The material resists you. This is the resistance tax of the armor. Every movement you make, lifting a cup, scratching your nose, swinging a sword, requires just a little more energy than it would if you were naked. It's only a few %, but over 10 hours of marching and fighting, that friction accumulates. You are fighting your own clothes before you even see the enemy. The gambeson covers your thighs, protecting the femoral artery, a favorite target for peasants with sharp knives who like to crawl under the fighting line. It covers your neck with a high, stiff collar. You are now effectively sealed in. You look at your hands. They are the only part of you still exposed to the cool air. You cherish the sensation, knowing it won't last. This garment alone weighs perhaps 6 or 7 pounds. It doesn't sound like much, but imagine wearing a heavy winter quilt, tightly laced, in the middle of July. Now imagine doing burpees in it. Now imagine someone hitting you with a baseball bat while you do the burpees. That is the life of a knight. Historians still argue about the exact composition of the padding, whether the wealthy used silk for better comfort or cotton imported from the East. But looking at the rough, yellowing linen on your arms, you know the truth of your own budget. You are wearing the medieval equivalent of a moving blanket. Your squire moves to the table to pick up the next piece. You take a breath, expanding your ribs against the quilting. The air inside the armory is cold, but inside your personal microclimate, it is already tropical. You are a walking furnace, generating heat that has nowhere to go. And this is the easy part. You are only wearing the wool. The iron is yet to come. The heat of the gambeson is already establishing its humid microclimate against your skin, but the dressing has barely begun. Your squire turns back to the table and grips a heap of gray material with both hands. He grunts as he lifts it. It pours through his fingers like thick, metallic water, making a sound that is distinct and terrifying. A harsh, fluid she-chink-she. It is the hauberk, the mail shirt. To the uninitiated, this is just chainmail, a term that is redundant and slightly annoying to purists, but accurate enough in its description of the misery it inflicts. You look at it. It is not the shiny, chrome-plated costume jewelry you see in pageants. It is dark, greasy, and smells of the black oil used to keep the rust at bay. It looks less like clothing and more like a heavy industrial net designed to catch a very large fish. Only the fish is you. The squire bunches it up. There is no dignified way to put on a hauberk. You cannot step into it. You cannot button it. You have to dive into it. You bend forward, extending your arms like a diver on a high board. The squire throws the mass of rings over your head. For a moment, you are blinded by steel. The weight hits the back of your neck with the force of a sandbag. You wiggle, shimmy, and fight the metal as gravity drags it down your torso. It catches on the rough linen of the gambeson. It snags on your elbows. You have to do a strange, jerking dance to get it to settle. When it finally drops into place, the sensation is immediate and oppressive. Unlike plate armor, which rests on specific points, mail is a parasite. It conforms to your shape perfectly. It seeks out every curve and hollow of your body and fills it with iron. It feels heavy in a way that is hard to describe, a dead weight that hangs entirely from your trapezius muscles. You stand up straight, or you try to. The hauberk weighs perhaps 25 or 30 pounds. That doesn't sound unmanageable until you realize it is hanging solely from your shoulders. Within minutes, you feel the dull ache begin the male stoop that will eventually curve your spine if you wear this for too many years. Belt, you gasp. The squire hurries to tie a leather strap around your waist. He pulls it tight, cinching the mail against your hips. This is the most important structural move of the morning. By belting the waist, you create a shelf. The bottom half of the mail now hangs from your hips, relieving your shoulders of perhaps 10 pounds of agony. You sigh. The relief is palpable, though temporary. You are now merely carrying a toddler made of iron instead of a teenager. You run your hand over the links. There are thousands of them, 30,000, perhaps 40,000 rings. Every single one has been touched by a human hand. This is the hidden cost of the mail. It is not the metal that bankrupts you. It is the time. Every ring is a riveted ring. A blacksmith had to draw the wire, coil it, cut it, flatten the ends, punch a hole, weave it into the neighbor rings, insert a tiny triangular rivet, and hammer it shut. Click, tap, click, tap, 40,000 times. You are wearing a garment that took a skilled artisan 6 months of his life to create. You are wearing a peasant's entire career on your back. There is a dark joke among the nobility that the only difference between a knight and a serf is that the knight wears the serf's house value as a shirt. But the rings are not just expensive. They are malicious. This is the 1,000 pinches of the outline. As you move, the rings shift. They open and close slightly. They act like thousands of tiny tweezers. If you have any exposed skin at the wrist, perhaps, or the back of the neck, the mail will find it. It will grab a single hair and rip it out. It will pinch a fold of skin and twist it. You are being subjected to a micro-torture that never stops. You reach up to adjust the collar. Snag. A hair on your forearm is gone. You twist your torso to check the fit. Pinch. The skin at your waist is nipped between the rings and the belt. The armor is constantly reminding you of its presence, nibbling at you like a school of piranhas made of wire. Then comes the coif. This is the hood of mail that protects your head and neck. Sometimes it is attached to the hauberk. Sometimes it is separate. You pull it up. It slides over the padded arming cap you have already donned. The world instantly changes. The moment the coif settles around your ears, the sound of the room deadens. The chink of the metal becomes a dull roar in your own skull. The squires talking in the corner sound like they are underwater. Your peripheral vision is cut off by the vertical curtains of mail at your cheeks. You are retreating into a tunnel. You breathe. The oil smell is stronger now, trapped in the weave near your nose. You taste the iron in the air. The protection offered by this suit is paradoxical. Mail is essentially fluid. If someone slashes at you with a sword, the edge will slide off the rings. You will not be cut. You will not bleed. In that sense, you are invulnerable. But mail is flexible. If someone hits you with a mace, the mail will simply move with the blow. The rings will stop the skin from breaking, but they will do absolutely nothing to stop the bone underneath from shattering. You will have a pristine skin over a pulverized forearm. This is why you wear the gambeson underneath, to turn the shatter into a bruise. But even with the padding, a solid hit feels like being struck with a hammer through a phone book. You roll your shoulders, trying to find a comfortable position. There isn't one. The mail drags at your arms. The friction is constant. Every time you lift your arm to simulate a sword swing, you are lifting 10 pounds of steel links that want to slide back down to the earth. You look at the squire. He is preparing the next layer. You are already tired. You are already hot. And you are only wearing the underlayer. Historians still argue whether knights in this specific decade wore a double mail layer over the chest for extra protection, or if they relied on the new coat of plates that was becoming fashionable. Standing there, feeling the weight already pressing your feet flat against the stone floor, you pray to the patron saint of metallurgy that you are not wearing double mail. One layer is enough to make you question your life choices. You take a step. Chink shi. You are loud. There is no sneaking in mail. You sound like a walking bag of cutlery. If you were trying to hide, a mail hauberk is a heavy, slumping burden, but it is, at least, flexible. It moves when you move, breathing with you like a second, heavier skin. But now, the flexible era of your mourning is over. The squire returns to the table, and the sound changes. It is no longer the fluid she of rings. It is the dull, heavy thud of solid plates being shifted. You are about to be encased in the white harness. This is the transition from a soldier to a statue. It begins counterintuitively at your feet. You sit on a bench, the mail skirt bunching around your thighs, while the squire kneels before you like a devotee at a shrine. He holds the Sabaton's articulated steel shoes that look like the claws of a metallic reptile. He slides them over your leather boots. They are composed of sliding rivets and lame plates, designed to allow you to walk, but not to run with any grace. Click, click. The spurs are buckled on next. These are not the jingling toys of a cowboy. They are long, vicious spikes. They are the gas pedals of the war machine. Once they are on, you must walk carefully. If you trip over your own spur and fall in this armor, getting up is not a guarantee. Next come the greaves. These are the shin guards, formed of two clamshell plates that hinge around your calf. The squire snaps them shut. Clack! He inserts a pin or buckles the strap. The steel is cold, sucking the warmth through the hose and the padding. It grips your leg. Then the cuisses for the thighs and the pulins for the knees. This is a complex engineering project. These pieces cannot just sit on your legs. They would slide down to your ankles. They must be suspended. The squire reaches up under your gambeson, fumbling for the pointing ties, the leather thongs sewn into the arming doublet. He threads the lace through a hole in the top of the steel plate and ties a knot. This is the suspension of disbelief, or rather, the suspension of iron. Your armor does not rest on your body. It hangs from it. Your gambeson is the chassis, and the plates are the body panels bolted onto the frame. If the squire ties a knot too loosely, the armor will flop around. If he ties it too tight, it will cut off the circulation to your leg. You stand there, correcting him, feeling the tug of the knots against your waist. As the leg harness is completed, you stand up. The sensation is strange. Your legs feel incredibly heavy, yet protected. You tap your shin against the bench. Clang, no pain. You feel a surge of invincibility in your lower limbs. You are becoming a crab, but now comes the centerpiece. The cuirass. The squire lifts it with both hands. It is a masterpiece of the armorer's art. It is a breastplate and a backplate, curved, polished, and terrifyingly expensive. You look at the curve of the steel. It is not flat. It has a globose shape, a rounded belly designed to deflect arrows and lance points. It is a glancing surface, but to your eyes, it looks like a bank ledger forged in steel. This single piece of metal cost more than the entire village you were born in. It is Milanese steel, or perhaps High Gothic German. It was hardened by a master smith who quenched it in a mixture of oil, urine, and secret herbs. It is proofed. If you look closely at the center of the chest, you can see a small, deliberate dent. This is the proof mark, the spot where the armorer shot the breastplate with a heavy crossbow to prove it would unshatter. You are wearing a mortgage on your chest. To pay for this, you sold a tract of forest. You mortgaged the mill. You took a loan from a Florentine banker who charges interest rates that are technically sinful but practically ruinous. There is a bitter irony here. You are armoring yourself to protect your life, but the cost of the armor effectively destroys your livelihood. You are a tank that has to sell its own fuel to pay for the treads. The squire presses the front plate against your chest. Then he slaps the back plate on. You are sandwiched. He pulls the straps at the waist and shoulders. Cinch. The air leaves your lungs. The cuirass must be tight to distribute the weight onto your hips, relieving your aching shoulders. But the tightness is claustrophobic. Your rib cage can no longer expand fully. You are forced into belly breathing, shallow breaths that use your diaphragm. The steel holds you in a rigid embrace. You cannot slouch. You cannot twist your spine more than a few degrees. You are locked into the posture of a hero, whether you feel like one or not. You tap the breastplate. It rings like a bell. It is solid. It makes you feel safe. In the way a coffin feels safe, nothing can get in, but you certainly can't get out. Next come the arms. The rear braces for the upper arms, the counters for the elbows, the vambraces for the forearms. More points, more ties, more knots. Your squire is sweating now, his fingers working frantically to assemble the puzzle of your body. Finally, the pauldrons. These are the great shoulder defenses, massive, curved plates that overlap the breastplate. They descend halfway down your arm. They are magnificent. They make your shoulders look 3 feet wide. They turn you into a giant, but they also blind you. You turn your head to the left. Your chin hits the steel, hot piece, the vertical flange rising from the shoulder. You can no longer see what is beside you. To look left, you have to turn your entire torso, which is already clamped in the vise of the cuirass. Your peripheral vision is gone. Your world is narrowing to a cone of vision directly in front of you. The squire steps back. "Done, my lord," he mutters. You try to move. It is a revelation. Pop culture tells you that knights in plate armor are lumbering turtles who cannot get up if they fall. This is a lie. The armor is surprisingly articulated. You can jump. You can touch your toes, if you really try. You can mount a horse. The weight, perhaps 50 or 60 pounds total, is distributed over your whole body. It is lighter than a modern infantryman's pack, but the inertia is real. Starting a movement requires effort. Stopping a movement requires effort. You are a heavy object. When you swing your arm, the steel gauntlet carries momentum. You have to fight your own kinetic energy. And the noise, clank, clatter, creak, squeak. You are a one-man percussion section. The leather straps creak against the metal. The lames of the fald, the skirt of hoops at your waist, clack together like Venetian blinds in a storm. The mail under the plate rustles. The armor is complete from the neck down. You are a shimmering, articulated statue of steel, weighing nearly 60 pounds, yet capable of vaulting onto a horse. You feel powerful. You feel invulnerable. But you are still human, because you still have a face. You can still see the sunrise, smell the dust, and hear the birds. Your squire climbs onto a stool. He has to be higher than you to finish the job. He holds the final piece in his hands. It is the bassinet. Specifically, it is a houndskull or pig-faced bassinet. It does not look heroic. It looks like a metallic caricature of a dog with a long conical snout protruding from the front. You might think it looks ridiculous, like a heavily armored anteater, but you paid a premium for that snout. The cone shape is pure geometry designed for survival. If a lance hits your face, the point will slide off the slope of the nose rather than smashing through your teeth. It is ugliness weaponized as safety. The squire lowers it over your head. The first sensation is the padding. Inside the steel shell is a suspension liner, a spiderweb of linen and leather straps that keeps the metal from touching your skull. If the helmet sat directly on your head, a sword blow would ring your brain like a church bell, concussing you instantly. The liner creates an air gap, a crumple zone for your cranium. The helmet settles. The weight is considerable, perhaps 7 or 8 pounds. It presses down on the arming cap, compressing your neck. You feel your center of gravity shift upward. You are now top-heavy. Next comes the aventail or camail. This is a curtain of chainmail that hangs from the bottom edge of the helmet to protect your throat. The squire has to attach it. This is a fiddly, tedious process involving vervels, small brass staples on the helmet rim, and a waxed leather cord. He threads the cord through the staples, locking the mail to the steel. Loop, pull, loop. He is sewing you into your own head. You stand there, staring at the stone wall, breathing the open air for the last time. The helmet is on, but the visor is up. You are looking out through the open faceplate, framed by steel, like a man looking out a window. "Ready, my lord?" the squire asks. You nod. He reaches up and grabs the snout of the pig face. He pulls it down. Clang. The sound is shocking. It is the sound of a jail door slamming, but it happens 3 inches from your ear. A mechanical latch clicks shut on the side. You are locked in. The world vanishes. Instantaneously, the armory disappears. The light disappears. The space around you shrinks from a room to a dark metal cave the size of a pumpkin. You are no longer in the world. You are in the helm. Your vision is slashed. You are no longer seeing a panoramic view of reality. You are looking through 2 narrow horizontal slits, the ocularia. They are perhaps 2 inches wide and 1/4 of an inch tall. Your field of view, which was once 180 degrees, is now perhaps 20 degrees. You have no peripheral vision. To see who is standing next to you, you have to turn your entire torso. You cannot see the floor. You cannot see your own feet. If there is a rock, a root, or a dead body in your path, you will not know it is there until you trip over it. You feel a sudden primal spike of claustrophobia. Your lizard brain realizes that your head is trapped. You cannot touch your face. If your nose itches, and it will, inevitably, the moment the visor locks, you cannot scratch it. If sweat runs into your eye, you have to blink it away. You are severed from your own anatomy. But the worst part is the air. The pig-faced snout is perforated with small holes on the right side. Historians still argue why the holes were often only on the right, though the prevailing theory is that since most lances approach from the left, across the body, the left side of the face needed to be solid steel. This means you are breathing through a filter that is 50% blocked. You take a breath. The air is thin. It is warm. You exhale. The breath hits the steel in front of your mouth and washes back over your face. You are breathing your own exhaust. Within seconds, the temperature inside the helmet spikes. The moisture from your breath condenses on the cold metal, creating a damp, tropical humidity inside the cone. You smell the rust. You smell the old leather of the liner. You smell the onions your squire ate for breakfast. This is the rebreather of panic. As you exert yourself, you will produce carbon dioxide. The ventilation holes are not efficient enough to clear it instantly. You will be constantly re-inhaling a percentage of your own waste gas. This leads to a subtle creeping anxiety, a feeling of air hunger that makes you want to tear the helmet off. But you can't. It's strapped, laced, and latched. You try to speak. Can you hear me? Your voice booms inside the skull, deafeningly loud to you, but muffled and tinny to the outside world. The squire steps closer. "My lord?" You realize you are shouting. To communicate, you have to bellow. The subtle nuances of human interaction are gone. You are a shouting metal box. Sound from the outside is equally distorted. The high frequencies are cut off. You hear the low thrum of blood in your ears, the creak of your own neck vertebrae, and the rasp of your breath. The world outside sounds distant, as if you are listening through a thick wall. If an order is shouted on the battlefield, you might miss it. If an enemy sneaks up behind you, you will not hear his footfalls. You feel a drip of sweat run down your forehead, into your eyebrow, and then into your eye. It stings. You blink furiously. You shake your head like a wet dog. The helmet rattles, but the sweat stays. You just have to live with the pain. This is the new normal. You stand there, swaying slightly as your inner ear adjusts to the deprivation. You are effectively blind, partially deaf, and slowly suffocating. And you paid a king's ransom for this privilege. There is a grim irony in the design. The helmet is the most vital piece of armor. It protects the seat of your consciousness, your identity, your command center. Yet to protect it, the helmet effectively disables it. It takes your senses, the very tools you need to survive a fight, and blunts them. You are trading awareness for durability. You are betting that being hit in the head and surviving is worth not seeing the blow coming in the first place. You turn your head to the right. The snout swings like a compass needle. You see a sliver of the squire through the eye slit. He looks distorted, framed by the jagged edges of the iron. You realize that to him, you are no longer a person. You are a terrifying, faceless effigy. The houndskull is designed to be scary. It dehumanizes you. It turns you into a monster of the battlefield, a thing without empathy or expression. But inside the monster, you are just a man trying not to hyperventilate. You focus on your breathing. In, out, in, out. You have to stay calm. Panic consumes oxygen, and oxygen is a luxury commodity inside the pig face. You are fully armored now. The white harness is complete. You are a masterpiece of medieval engineering. You are standing in the courtyard, a sealed metal canister of a man, vibrating with heat and claustrophobia. Your squire approaches with the final piece of the puzzle, the object that defines your caste and justifies your existence. He holds it reverently, offering the hilt first. It is the sword. To the poets and the minstrels, this is a symbol of justice, a shard of light that cleaves the darkness. To you, looking through the narrow slit of your visor, it looks like a terrifyingly expensive liability. You grasp the grip. It is wrapped in leather, perhaps sharkskin or ray skin, imported from distant waters for its abrasive texture that grips even when slick with blood. The balance is exquisite. You lift it, and the tip sings in the air. This is not the clumsy, 10-pound iron bar of Hollywood fantasy. It weighs perhaps 2.5 pounds. It feels alive, a spirited extension of your arm. But as you hold it up to the morning light, admiring the glint of the sun on the fuller, you are not thinking about glory. You are thinking about the smith's bill. This weapon is a Type 15 arming sword, designed specifically for the era of plate armor. It is stiff, sharply tapered, a needle made of high-carbon steel. Creating it was not a matter of simply banging hot metal. It was a chemical miracle. The smith had to fold the steel, twist it, and temper it to a precise hardness. If it is too hard, it will shatter like glass when you hit a helmet. If it is too soft, it will bend like a lead pipe. It exists in a metallurgical Goldilocks zone that costs more than a peasant family earns in 3 generations. You run your gaunted thumb along the flat. You do not touch the edge. You never touch the edge. This is the great anxiety of the sword owner. Edge degradation. The sword is a depreciating asset. Every time you use it, you destroy a little bit of its value. If you swing this masterpiece at a peasant and he blocks it with a cheap wooden shield rimmed with iron, your edge will bite into the iron. It will chip. It will roll. You will have traded a microscopic piece of your perfect steel for a notch in a piece of firewood. It is a terrible economic exchange. If you hit another sword edge on edge, as in the movies, it is a disaster. The hardened steel will gouge deep shards out of both blades. A single parry can turn a sword worth a manor house into a saw blade worth nothing. So you treat it with a paranoia that borders on neurosis. You are constantly calculating the angle of impact. You are terrified of bone. Bone is hard. A thigh bone can snap a blade. A skull is a curved surface that can deflect a strike and torque the steel until it snaps at the tang. You are carrying a weapon that you are afraid to use on anything harder than a cheese wheel. Historians still argue whether war swords were kept razor-sharp or left with a slightly more robust appleseed edge to prevent chipping. Standing there, inspecting the bevel, you hope for the latter. A razor edge is fragile. You need a chisel edge. You need a tool that can pry, hammer, and stab without snapping in half. You slide the blade into the scabbard. Shwick click. The scabbard is a piece of engineering often ignored, but it is the only thing keeping your investment from turning into a rust stick. It is made of thin wood slats, covered in leather, and lined with sheepskin. The wool on the inside still has the natural lanolin oil in it. Every time you sheath the sword, the wool oils the blade. It is a self-lubricating preservation system. But even the scabbard is a worry. If water gets inside, the wood swells. It traps the moisture against the steel. You could draw your sword in a week's time and find it welded to the sheath by corrosion. So you obsess over the rain guard, a small leather flap at the crossguard that fits over the scabbard mouth, sealing it against the elements. You are a warrior, but you spend 90% of your mental energy acting as a janitor for your own equipment. The sword hangs at your hip. It pulls at the belt. It is always there, banging against your armored thigh. It is a constant reminder of your status. Only a knight can afford a sword of this quality. A peasant carries a messer, or an axe, tools of labor repurposed for war. You carry a tool that has no other purpose but homicide. It is an aristocrat's privilege to carry an object that is useless for anything except killing other aristocrats. But because everyone around you is also wearing 60 pounds of hardened steel, the sword is effectively obsolete as a cutting weapon. You cannot cut through a breastplate. You cannot cut through a helmet. Slashing at a knight in plate armor is like trying to open a can of soup with a fly swatter. This leads to the half-sword technique. You grasp the blade itself with your left hand. Yes, you grab the sharp steel. Your gauntlets protect you, and the pressure holds the blade steady. You turn your sword into a short spear. You are not swinging. You are hunting for gaps. You are looking for the armpit, the groin, the eye slit. You are trying to thread a needle with a 3-foot bar of steel while someone tries to kill you with a hammer. Or you flip it around. You hold the blade with both hands and swing the hilt. This is the murder stroke, mordo. You use the heavy steel pommel as a mace to crack the enemy's helmet. Think about the financial irony of that maneuver. You have paid a master smith to forge a perfectly balanced, tempered razor-sharp blade so that you could hold it by the sharp end and hit people with the handle. You are using a Ferrari to ram a garage door. It works, but it feels like a sin against capitalism. The pommel itself is a work of art. It might be a wheel shape or a scent stopper shape. It acts as a counterweight to bring the center of balance back toward your hand, making the sword feel weightless. But inside the pommel, there is often a hollow space or a sacred relic sealed in lead, a tooth of a saint, a scrap of a martyr's cloak. You are swinging a weapon that is also a reliquary. You are hitting people with your religion. Your squire adjusts the sword belt. It has to be tight so the scabbard doesn't swing between your legs and trip you. The suspension system of the belt is complex, involving split straps to keep the sword at a jaunty, accessible angle. Everything is about ergonomics. If you can't reach the hilt in a split second, you die. If the sword gets tangled in your spurs, you die. If the sword falls out when you mount your horse, you look like an idiot, and then you die. You rest your hand on the pommel. The steel is cold through the leather of your gauntlet. You feel a strange relationship with this object. It is your sidearm. It is the last resort. If your lance breaks, and it will, if your horse dies, and it might, the sword is mounted now, sitting high above the mud on a saddle that squeaks with the friction of leather against steel. The world looks different from up here, more distant, more abstract. But your hands are full. Your left hand holds the reins and the shield. Your right hand is currently empty, waiting for the final and most ridiculous delivery of the morning. Your squire struggles over with it. It is the lance. It is a monstrosity. 12 feet long, perhaps 14. It is made of ash wood, chosen for its straight grain and its ability to absorb shock without snapping instantly, though snapping is, paradoxically, its ultimate destiny. It is thick at the grip, tapering to a deadly point, capped with a quadrilateral steel head. It weighs perhaps 10 or 15 pounds. You take it. The leverage is punishing. Holding a 14-foot pole at one end is a physics problem that your wrist is not designed to solve. The tip wants to dive into the dirt. The butt wants to hit your horse in the flank. You have to balance it, resting the butt against your thigh or your stirrup, keeping it upright like a flagpole. This is the disposable fortune. You look at the wood. It is smooth, sanded, perhaps painted in your colors. A carpenter spent days shaping this. A smith forged the head. It cost a shilling, maybe 2 a week's wages for a laborer. And the entire purpose of this object, its raison d'etre, is to turn into firewood in approximately 4 seconds. There is a unique bitterness in this economy. You buy the sword to keep. You buy the armor to wear for years. But the lance is ammunition. It is a single-use kinetic missile. You are essentially carrying a very expensive wooden rocket that you will fire once, destroy completely, and then have to discard. If you are lucky, you will break it. This is the insanity of the lance charge. If you hit the enemy and the lance doesn't break, the physics are catastrophic. The kinetic energy of 2 charging horses, perhaps 2 tons of meat and steel, colliding at a combined speed of 40 miles per hour, has to go somewhere. If the wood stays solid, that energy travels backward, up the shaft, into your arm, and into your shoulder. You will be vaulted out of the saddle like a stone from a catapult. Your shoulder will dislocate. Your spine might compress. So you pray for the shatter. You want the ash to explode. You want to see the splinters fly. That explosion of wood is the safety valve that saves your life. You are paying for the privilege of destruction. You adjust your grip. Your hand is protected by the vamplate, a conical steel funnel riveted to the shaft just above your hand. It acts as a shield for your fingers. Without it, the enemy's lance would slide down your own shaft and turn your hand into pulp. But the real secret of the lance isn't the wood. It is the arrest. You look down at your breastplate. On the right side, bolted firmly to the ribs, is a sturdy steel hook or bracket. This is the lance rest. It looks insignificant, like a coat hook. But it is the technological innovation that changed warfare. When the charge begins, you do not hold the lance with the strength of your arm. That would be impossible. The impact would rip your bicep off the bone. Instead, you couch the lance. You tuck it under your armpit and slot the grapper, a ring of leather, or iron behind your hand, onto the lance rest. Click. The lance is now mechanically locked to your body. And because your body is locked into the high-backed war saddle, and the saddle is girth-strapped to the horse, the lance is now effectively an extension of the animal itself. You have become a centaur. The tip of the lance does not hit with the force of a man's arm. It hits with the mass of the horse. You are steering a living battering ram. But managing this timber is a nightmare. The visor of your bassinet is down. You are looking through a slit. The lance tip is 12 feet away, bobbing up and down with every step the horse takes. It is heavy. It sways. You are trying to aim a wobbly stick at a moving target while effectively blindfolded and riding a roller coaster. And the wind catches it. Gust from the side can wrench your arm or twist the lance tip off target. You have to fight the air itself. You are constantly making micro-adjustments, straining your wrist, sweating inside the steel. Lance is up. The order comes down the line. You lift the point. The forest of ash rises. It is a terrifying sight, a hedge of spikes moving in unison. But all you can think about is the cost. If you miss, you have wasted the lance. You have to drop it. You can't fight with a 12-foot pole in a melee. And draw your sword. That's 2 shillings left in the mud for the peasants to burn. If you hit a shield and it glances off, you have wasted the lance. If you hit the ground, you look like a fool, and you have broken the lance for nothing. You are desperate to hit something expensive. You want to hit a knight. You want to smash that shilling's worth of ash into a 100-pound breastplate. It is the only way to justify the expense. Historians still argue about whether war lances in this specific period were hollowed out to make them lighter and easier to break as they were in jousts, or if they were solid war wood. Looking at the grain of the ash in your hand, you suspect it is solid. It feels heavy enough to punch through a castle door. It feels like it hates you. The squire checks the girth strap one last time. If the saddle slips when the lance hits, you will spin underneath the horse's belly and be trampled by your own investment. You feel the horse shift its weight. It knows what the lance means. It means pain is coming. It means the shock. The shock is the moment of impact. It is a singular sensory experience. It is not a sharp pain. It is a dull, universe-ending thud that rings every tooth in your head. The sound is deafening. The crack of the wood, the clang of metal, the scream of the horses. And then the weight is gone. You are left holding a splintered stump. The rest of your fortune is flying through the air or embedded in someone's lung. You have to toss the stump aside instantly, because now you are in sword range, and a man holding a stick is a dead man. You look at the bundle of spare lances on the baggage wagon in the distance. There are 10 of them, 20 shillings. A flock of sheep worth of wood, waiting to be turned into toothpicks. There is something deeply nihilistic about this weapon. It is the ultimate expression of the throwaway culture of war. You grow the tree for 20 years. You season the wood for 2. You craft the shaft for a week, and you destroy it in a heartbeat. It is a testament to how cheap nature is and how expensive violence is. You rest the butt of the lance on your armored toe. The metal greave clicks. The horse stamps. You are a delivery system for a piece of wood. That is your function. The armor keeps you alive so you can deliver the wood. The horse carries you so you can deliver the wood. The sword is just backup for when the wood is gone. You feel the weight dragging on your shoulder. Your arm is already tired. You haven't even charged yet. You are just waiting. Waiting to throw your money away. Waiting to see if this specific piece of ash will save your life, or simply snap too early and leave you exposed to the steel point coming the other way. You grip the leather tight. The lance feels dead in your hand. But soon, for one glorious, terrifying fraction of a second, it will be the most alive thing in the world. And then it will be garbage. You are perched 6 feet in the air, legs locked into the high, rigid saddle, sensing the immense, vibrating heat of the animal beneath you. This is not a pet. This is not the gentle pony you learned to ride in the paddock, nor the reliable palfrey used for travel. This is a destrier. The name comes from the vulgar Latin dexterarius, meaning right-sided, because the squire leads it by the right hand until the moment you mount. It is a biological machine bred for a singular purpose, to deliver you and your lance into a collision with extreme prejudice. You look down at the beast's neck. It is thick, muscular, and arched with aggression. The destrier is almost always a stallion and uncastrated male, fueled by testosterone and a carefully cultivated bad attitude. He snorts, and the sound is like a steam valve releasing pressure. He paws the ground, churning the mud into a paste, eager to trample something. But as you pat the sweating neck with your gaunted hand, you are not thinking about his combat prowess. You are thinking about his appetite. The destrier is a beast that eats gold. To maintain this animal in fighting condition, you cannot simply let him graze on grass. Grass is for cows. Grass makes a horse pot-bellied and slow. A warhorse requires hard feed. He needs oats. He needs beans. He needs peas and bran. He consumes calories at a rate that would sustain 3 peasant families. In the winter, when the grain stocks run low and the village children are crying because their bellies are empty, the destrier eats first. He gets the choice oats. You act as his nutritionist, obsessing over his diet while your own family eats maslin, bread, a gritty mix of rye and wheat that scratches the throat. There is a grim truth in the matter. The horse is more essential to the estate's survival than any single human being, yourself included. If you die, your son inherits. If the horse dies, the family loses its status as a martial power. You check the caparison, the long flowing cloth covering the horse. It is embroidered with your coat of arms, a beautiful drapery of silk or wool. It looks majestic. It also hides the fact that the horse is wearing armor, too. Under the cloth, there might be a pectoral for the chest or a crupper for the hindquarters. Maybe even a chanfre on a steel mask for the face. You have armored the money pit. You have put a roll cage on the Ferrari. The cost of this animal is staggering. A good destrier can cost anywhere from 20 to 80 marks. To put that in perspective, a plow horse costs 10 shillings. You are riding the equivalent of 20 tractors. If you were to sell him, you could build a new wing on your manor house. But you can't sell him. You are a knight. Without the horse, you are just a heavy infantryman with a fancy title and bad knees. You feel the horse shift his weight. He is restless. He snaps his teeth at a passing groom. Stallions are naturally combative, and you have trained him to be worse. You have taught him to kick out on command. You have taught him to bite. You have taught him to charge into a wall of screaming men and not shy away. This training is a double-edged sword. It makes him a terrifying weapon, but it also makes him a liability in peacetime. You cannot tie him up next to another horse. He will try to kill it. You cannot leave him unattended. He is a high-maintenance psychopath that lives in your barn, and he is fragile. This is the great anxiety that keeps you awake at night. Horses are remarkably delicate creatures. They are prone to 1,000 ailments, any one of which can liquidate your investment overnight. A stone in the hoof, a strained tendon, a fungal infection in the frog, the strangles, the glanders, but the worst is colic. You have stood in the stable at 3 a.m, listening to your fortune groan and roll in the straw, its gut twisted, its eyes rolling in pain. You have watched the farrier pour oil and wine down its throat, praying to St. Hippolytus, the patron saint of horses, that the blockage passes. You have realized, with a cold sweat, that if this animal dies, you are finished. You cannot afford another one. You will have to go to war on a Rouncia farm horse, and you will be laughed off the field before being skewered. Historians still argue about the actual size of the medieval destrier. Popular culture imagines them as massive Clydesdales, 18 hands high and plodding. But looking at the animal between your knees, you know he is smaller than that, perhaps 15 or 16 hands. He is not a giant. He is a compact ball of muscle, built for agility and explosive acceleration. He is a heavy middleweight boxer, not a sumo wrestler. You tighten your grip on the reins. You use a curb bit, a severe piece of ironmongery in the horse's mouth. It allows you to control this 1,000-pound ball of fury with small movements of your wrist. If you didn't have it, he would ignore you completely and run back to the barn to eat more of your money. The connection between you is fed, groomed, and armored, but he is not yet ready to move. You lead him out of the stable, listening intently to the rhythm of his hooves on the cobblestones. Clop, clop, clink, clop. You stop. You heard it. That distinct, metallic rattle of a loose shoe. Or worse, the dull thud of an unshod hoof hitting the granite. You curse quietly inside your helmet. The horse has thrown a shoe. Or perhaps he has simply worn through the toe, grinding the iron down to a paper-thin crescent that snapped under the weight of his own ego. Either way, your war machine is grounded. A horse without iron is like a tank without treads. He will split a hoof, go lame, and become a very expensive pet within a mile of leaving the castle. So, you do not ride to war. You ride to the forge. You are about to pay the hoof tax. You arrive at the farrier shed. It is an open-sided structure, dark and smelling of coal smoke and sulfur. The farrier, often called the marshal, is waiting. He is a man with forearms the size of cured hams, and a leather apron stiff with grime. He does not bow to you. He knows the hierarchy here. In the castle, you are the master. In the forge, you are just a customer with a broken vehicle, and he is the only mechanic in town. You dismount. The armor weighs you down as you hit the dirt. You hand the reins to the squire, but you stay to watch. You have to. This operation is too critical to leave to a teenager. The farrier approaches the horse. The destrier, usually aggressive, seems to understand the authority of the apron. He lifts a leg. The farrier inspects the damage. He pulls a pair of pincers from his belt. He grips the remains of the old shoe. With a grunt and a twist, he rips it off. Creak, pop, the nails come out. The hoof is bare. It looks vulnerable, a pale, waxy block of keratin that supports half a ton of violence. Now begins the maintenance. The farrier picks up a large, coarse file. He begins to file the hoof flat. Scritch, scratch, scritch. Dust flies. It smells like burning hair. He is balancing the foot. If he files one side too low, the horse will walk crooked. If he leaves the toe too long, the horse will trip. He is performing orthopedics with a giant metal file. He turns to the fire. He pulls a glowing horseshoe from the coals. It is orange hot, radiating heat that you can feel even through your greaves. He walks back to the horse. Steady. He growls. He presses the red-hot iron directly onto the horse's hoof. Hiss. A cloud of white smoke erupts. The smell hits you instantly. It is the acrid, choking stench of burning horn. It smells like a torture chamber. It coats the back of your throat. This is hot shoeing. It is not cruelty. It is engineering. The heat softens the hoof, allowing the shoe to seat perfectly against the uneven surface. It cauterizes any bacteria. The horse doesn't feel it, as the outer hoof has no nerves, but to watch it is visceral. It looks like he is branding the animal's foot. A farrier pulls the shoe away. He checks the seat, the black, charred imprint on the hoof. It is perfect. He cools the shoe in a bucket of water steam, hiss, and returns to nail it on. This is the moment of truth. The farrier picks up a nail. These are not carpentry nails. They are specialized, flat-sided nails that cost a penny a handful. He positions the nail in the fullering, the groove of the shoe. He raises his hammer. Tap, tap, bang. He drives the nail into the hoof. Here is the terror. The wall of the hoof is only perhaps half an inch thick. Inside that wall is the sensitive lamina, the living tissue, the blood, the nerves. It is called the quick. If the farrier angles the nail inward by just a few degrees, he will drive the iron spike into the live flesh. This is called pricking the horse. The horse will flinch. Blood will flow. And within hours, an infection will set in. The horse will be three-legged lame for a month. You are paying a man to drive spikes within millimeters of your investment's nervous system. You hold your breath with every strike. Bang! The nail tip emerges from the side of the hoof wall. The farrier twists it off and clinches it, bending it over to lock the shoe in place. He does this 6 or 7 times per foot. He puts the leg down. The horse stamps, clang, solid. That'll be 4 pence, the farrier says. You pay him. 4 pence. That is the price of a chicken. That is a day's wage for a skilled archer. And you will pay this every 4 to 6 weeks. The hoof grows, you see. It is a giant fingernail. As it grows, the shoe moves forward. The balance changes. If you don't reset the shoes, the tendons strain and the horse breaks down. You are trapped in a biological subscription model. And then there is the winter tax. When the ice comes, the smooth iron shoes become skates. A horse on ice is a disaster waiting to happen. So you have to come back to the farrier. He has to take the shoes off again. He has to weld calkins or corks onto the heel's little spikes or studs that dig into the ice. Then, when the thaw comes, You have to go back and have them ground off, or the horse will hurt his knees standing on the spikes in the mud. You are constantly modifying the landing gear. The farrier wipes his hands on a rag. He looks at your armor. He sees the rust starting on the rivets of your gauntlets. He probably thinks you look like a fool wrapped in foil, obsessing over a horse while he stays warm by the fire. There is a joke often told in the stables. For want of a nail, the shoe was lost. For want of a shoe, the horse was lost. For want of a horse, the knight had to walk, and discovered his armor was too heavy, and died of heat stroke in a ditch. It's not a very funny joke, mostly because it is scientifically accurate. You mount up. The horse feels different now, taller. The new shoes give him grip. He digs into the earth. The traction is restored. But as you ride away, you hear the clink-clink of the new iron hitting the stones. You know that with every step, the metal is wearing away. The road is essentially a grindstone. You are leaving microscopic trails of expensive iron dust across the countryside. You are leaking money through the feet. You think about the Roman roads. They are paved with hard stone. They are the enemy of the hoof. You think about the mud. It sucks the shoes off. You think about the battle to come. If the horse throws a shoe in the middle of a charge, he might stumble. If he stumbles, you go down. If you go down, the infantry swarm you. So, your life depends entirely on the integrity of 28 iron nails, driven by a man who smells like burning hair and doesn't particularly like you. You pat the horse's neck again. "Good boy," you mutter. He ignores you. He is thinking about oats. You are thinking about the next bill. The farrier is back in his shed, heating another shoe for another anxious man. The cycle continues. The iron wears, the hoof grows, and the silver flows out of your purse to bridge the gap between the two. You realize that nobility is not a right. It is a rented privilege, and the rent is due every time the hammer falls. You are never truly alone. Even when the armor is off, the horse is stabled, and the battle is days away, you are shadowed by a presence that is equal parts essential servant and financial parasite. He is trailing 3 steps behind you right now, probably tripping over a root or dropping a saddlebag. He is your squire. He is 14, perhaps 15 years old. He is a collection of elbows and knees, growing at a rate that defies the laws of thermodynamics. He is the son of a neighboring lord, or perhaps a cousin, sent to your household to learn the knightly arts. This is a polite way of saying that you are running a boarding school for one student, and the tuition is paid in headaches. You look at him. He is currently trying to fold your expensive velvet cloak. He is doing it wrong. He is bunching it like a used rag. You want to shout at him, but you are too tired. You just watch as he wrestles the fabric, his face a mask of intense, clumsy concentration. The first thing you notice about a squire is the appetite. Adolescence is a biological furnace. The boy is growing bone and muscle to prepare for a life of violence, and that process requires fuel. He eats constantly. He eats the pottage. He eats the hard cheese. He eats the gristle off the meat you leave behind. If you turn your back on a loaf of bread, it vanishes. You are feeding a caloric black hole. On a campaign where food prices skyrocket because the army has eaten everything in a 10-mile radius, the squire's hunger becomes a line item on your ledger that rivals the horse St. bill. There is a standing joke in the camp that the only thing more dangerous than a French charge is a squire who has missed breakfast. But you cannot starve him. If he is weak, he cannot help you into your armor. If he is faint, he cannot hold your spare horse. You are obligated to maintain his energy levels so that he can continue to be useful to you. You are shoveling coins into his mouth in the form of salted pork, hoping that some of it converts into competence. And then there is the gear. The squire is the custodian of your mobile armory. When you take the armor off, he is the one who has to clean it. This sounds like a luxury having a servant to do the dirty work, but it is actually a source of profound anxiety. You sit by the fire, watching him work on your hauberk. He has a barrel of sand and vinegar. He is rolling the mail, shaking it in the barrel to scour off the rust. Shake, shake. The noise is maddening, but the fear is worse. If he uses sand that is too coarse, he will scratch the rivets. If he leaves the mail in the vinegar too long, it will weaken the iron. If he doesn't dry it perfectly by the fire, it will rust again overnight, fusing into a solid block of orange corrosion. You are trusting your life-saving equipment to a boy whose brain is currently flooded with hormones and daydreaming about the miller's daughter. Dry it thoroughly, you snap. Yes, my lord, he mumbles, tossing the mail onto a canvas sheet. He misses the sheet. The mail hits the mud. You close your eyes. You count to 10. You remember that his father is a powerful baron who could make your life miserable if you return his son with a broken nose. So you swallow the rage. You are not just a master. You are a diplomat managing a hostage situation where the hostage is your employee. His own equipment is another drain. By law and custom, you are often expected to arm him. He doesn't wear full plate, that is for knights, but he needs a helmet, a jack, a padded coat, and a sword. Since you are paying, he gets your hand-me-downs. He is wearing your old gambeson, the one with the wine stain on the collar. It is too big for him. He looks like a child playing dress-up in his father's clothes. He carries a sword that has been sharpened so many times it is more of a shiv than a blade. He rides your second-best horse, the rouncy, which is actually your fourth-best horse, because you can't trust him with a good one. He is a shabbier, cheaper reflection of you. When people look at him, they are judging your wealth. If your squire looks like a beggar, you look like a pauper. So you have to spend money to dress him up, polishing the mirror so it reflects a lie. But his role is not just decorative. This is the grim reality of the squire's existence. He is your spare parts carrier. In battle, he does not charge with you. He waits in the rear, or hovers on the fringes. He holds the spare lance. He holds the fresh horse. If your destrier is gutted, you have to run back to the squire, grab the rouncy, and ride back in. This means he is a target. The enemy knows that if they kill the squires, the knights have no pit crew. He is standing in the arrow storm, holding a nervous horse, wearing second-rate armor, waiting for you to come back and demand a refill. And if you fall, this is the nightmare scenario. You are lying in the mud, your leg broken, your horse dead, the enemy infantry closing in with knives to open your visor. The squire is supposed to charge in and save you. He is supposed to drag 200 pounds of armored meat out of the fray. He is supposed to swing his cheap sword at hardened killers to buy you time. You are pinning your survival on the bravery of a 14-year-old who is currently afraid of the dark. Historians still argue about how often squires actually engaged in full combat versus staying with the baggage train. But in the chaos of a rout, the distinction is academic. When the line breaks, everyone fights. You look at his skinny arms. You wonder if he could actually lift you. You suspect that if things go bad, he might just take the spare horse and ride for home. You wouldn't blame him. You haven't paid him in 3 months. At night, the relationship becomes uncomfortably domestic. Space in the tent is limited. Warmth is scarce. Often, the squire sleeps at the foot of your pallet, curled up in a blanket like a loyal hound. You can hear him breathing. You can smell him, that unique mixture of unwashed teenager, wet wool, and wood smoke. It is a reminder of the lack of privacy in medieval life. You are never alone. You undress with him watching. You pray with him watching. You weep with him watching. He knows your scars, your night terrors, and the state of your finances. He is the keeper of your secrets, simply because he is part of the furniture. He rolls over in his sleep, muttering something, probably about food. You look at the firelight dancing on his face. In repose, he looks innocent. He looks like the boy you were 20 years ago, before the debt and the iron broke you. You realize that you are not just training him to fight. You are training him to take your place in the grinder. You are teaching him how to incur debt. You are teaching him how to polish the cage. You are teaching him that honor is expensive and glory is heavy. One day he will be knighted. You will slap him on the shoulder, give him a sword, and send him out to find his own squire. And the cycle will continue. He will become the tired, indebted man in the tent, watching a new boy eat his profits. But for now, he is just a liability. He wakes up with a start. "My lord?" He whispers, seeing you awake. "Go back to sleep," you grunt. "I'm hungry," he says. Of course he is. You toss him a piece of dried apple from your pouch. He catches it, devours it in 2 bites, and falls back asleep instantly. You sit there, listening to the wind outside. You are paying for his food. You are paying for his clothes. You are paying for his blare, a harsh, brassy sound that cuts through the humidity inside your helmet. To the crowd eating spiced nuts in the stands, this sound signals the start of a glorious pageant. To you, sweating in the staging area, it sounds like the opening bell of a foreclosure auction, and you are the property being sold. You are at the tournament. Forget the songs. Forget the ribbons tied to lances and the courtly love. This is not a sporting event. This is high-stakes asset forfeiture played with heavy cavalry. You are not here to impress a lady. You are here because your cash flow is negative, your harvest was poor, and the armorer is threatening to repossess your pauldrons. You are here to win a horse. The rules of the mallee or the joust often dictate that the winner takes the loser's equipment. If you knock the other man down, you claim his destrier and his armor. You can then sell them back to him for a ransom. It is a quick, violent way to inject liquidity into your failing estate. Of course, if you fall, he takes your horse. It is a zero-sum game of financial ruin. You are betting your house on a coin toss, where the coin is a 12-foot spear. You look across the barrier, the tilt. At the other end of the list sits your opponent. He is a mountain of steel, painted in red and gold checkerboard. He looks terrifying. But you know the truth. Inside that can is another man hyperventilating, worrying about the mortgage on his castle, desperate to steal your horse to pay his own farrier. You are 2 desperate accountants trying to murder each other for a bonus. The herald announces your name. He embellishes your titles. He calls you the Lion of the North or the Wall of the West. It is good marketing. It drives up the betting odds. There is a joke among the knights. The herald's job is to explain why a man in a tin suit falling off a horse is actually poetry. You don't feel like a poem. You feel like a crash test dummy. You lower your visor. Clang. The world narrows to the slit. The noise of the crowd muffles. You are alone with your breathing and the smell of the horse's fierce sweat. You check your lance. It is a blunted lance, tipped with a cornel, a 3-pronged crown head designed to grip the shield rather than punch through it. But blunted is a relative term. It is still a solid ash pole hitting you at 40 miles per hour. It won't impale you, but it can shatter your ribs, dislocate your shoulder, or give you a concussion that leaves you forgetting the names of your children for a week. Historians still argue about the distinction between a plaisance, for pleasure, peace, and a trance, war to the limit, tournaments in this era. But when you are staring down the barrel of a charging horse, the academic distinction feels irrelevant. Peace or war, the physics are going to hurt. Laissez-aller. The marshal shouts, "Let them go." You spur the horse. The acceleration is jerky. The heavy saddle, the armor, the barding, it all creates drag. But the destrier knows the drill. He digs in. The thunder of hooves fills your helmet. The fence rail rushes past your left elbow, a blur of wood. You focus on the red and gold shield rushing toward you. It is the size of a dinner plate. It is the target. You have to hit it. You have to hit it hard enough to break the lance, or unhorse the man. You couch the lance. The shock of the arrest locking into place travels through your ribs. You brace yourself. You lean forward. You become a missile. Crack. The impact is instantaneous and absolute. It is not like the movies where you fly backward in slow motion. It is a violent, jarring halt. The world spins. Your teeth slam together. Your vision goes white. You feel the lance shatter. The shock wave travels up your arm, bypassing the wood and hitting your shoulder like a sledgehammer. You teeter in the saddle. The high cantle, the back of the saddle, slams into your tailbone, keeping you from flying off the back. You are sandwiched between the lance and the saddle. You gasp for air, but your lungs are spasming. You fight to stay upright. If you touch the ground, you lose. If you touch the ground, your horse belongs to the red and gold man. You blink the stars from your eyes. You are still in the saddle. You look back. Your opponent is still in his saddle too. He is shaking his head, trying to clear the cobwebs. It is a draw. A broken lance for both. No winner, no ransom. No money. You have just risked a broken neck for absolutely zero return on investment. You ride back to the starting line. The squire runs out with a fresh lance. "Good hit, my lord," he shouts. "Shut up," you wheeze. Your ribs feel like they are grinding together. You wonder if one is cracked. You can't check. You can't take the armor off. You have to go again. This is the gambler's fallacy of the lists. You have already paid the entry fee. You have already risked the horse. You can't walk away now. You have to double down. You have to ride until one of you hits the dirt. Run too. The crowd cheers. They want violence. They want to see the clatter, the spectacular wreck. They are the same people who will stare at a car crash in 600 years. They don't care about your debt. They just want a show. You charge again. The pain in your shoulder flares, hot and sharp. You grit your teeth. You aim for the helmet this time. It is dangerous. It is technically frowned upon in some rule sets, but it is effective. A headshot usually guarantees a fall. WHAM. You miss the helmet but catch the top edge of the shield. Your lance skitters up and hits his pauldron. He reels. He leans. Gravity takes over. You watch in slow motion as the red and gold tower tips. He falls. He hits the dirt with a sound like a sack of anvils being dropped from a roof. Clang thud. He does not get up. You rein in your horse. You have won. The relief is not triumphant. It is financial. You look at his horse, a fine bay stallion, sweating and blowing. That is your horse now. Or rather, that is the 40 marks you need to pay the Florentine banker. You ride back to your tent. You do not celebrate. You sit on a stool while the squire pries the armor off your bruised body. Your chest is purple. Your breath catches every time you inhale. You have likely cracked a rib. The defeated knight squire arrives an hour later. He looks dejected. He brings the sword and the spurs, and he leads the horse. He offers a pouch of coins, instead the ransom. He is buying back his master's dignity. You take the pouch. It is heavy. It is salvation. But as you weigh it in your hand, you do the math. The lance you broke cost 2 shillings. The tip you tipped the herald cost 5. The armor repair for the dent in your breastplate will cost 10. The doctor for your ribs will cost a mark. You have profited, but barely. You have traded a piece of your skeletal integrity for a bag of silver. There is a joke often told by the surgeons who patch up the tournament fighters. A jouster has the brain of a sheep, the heart of a lion, and the ribs of a cracker. You feel the truth of it as you wrap a linen bandage around your chest. You won today. You will eat this winter. You will keep your horse. But the circuit continues. There is another tournament next month. Another mortgage payment due. Another desperate man in a tin pen waiting to knock you into the poorhouse. The armor is scrubbed. The dents from the tournament are hammered out, and the horse has been reshod with expensive iron. But before you can march to war, there is one final, crucial step. You must be branded. You sit in the drafty hall of your manor, watching a craftsman work on your shield. It is a heater shield, made of lime wood, covered in leather and gesso. It is currently a blank white canvas, but it cannot stay white. In the chaos of battle, white means nothing. It means you are a nobody, and nobodies get killed. You need to be a somebody. You need to be a logo. The craftsman opens a small pot. It contains a vivid, shocking blue paste. This is not cheap dye derived from woad. This is azure, true azure. It is made from lapis lazuli, a semi-precious stone mined in the mountains of distant Afghanistan and shipped across the known world to end up on your piece of plywood. He dips his brush. He paints a chevron on the shield. You watch the brushstroke. That single stripe of blue cost you 3 sheep. Then he opens a packet of gold leaf. It is real gold, hammered so thin it floats on a breath of air. He applies it to the field of the shield. This is ore. You are literally gilding your defense. You are covering a tool designed to be hacked to pieces with materials that belong in a cathedral. There is a dry joke among the nobility that a knight's shield is the only art gallery in the world designed specifically to be destroyed by barbarians. But this extravagance is not optional. It is the law of arms. You are painting your heraldry. This is the medieval barcode system. In a world where faces are covered by steel visors and everyone looks like a generic metal robot, a paint on your shield is the only way to tell friend from foe. It is your ID card. It tells the commander where you are on the field. It tells your men whom to follow. But most importantly, it tells the enemy how much you are worth. You look at the design. Or a chevron azure between 3 lions rampant ghouls. It is a specific code. The heralds, the officious bureaucrats of the battlefield, record this design in a roll of arms. They police it strictly. You cannot just decide to have a dragon today because you feel fierce. You cannot copy your neighbor's stripes. That is assumption of arms, and it is a lawsuit waiting to happen. You have to pay the heralds to register your mark. You are paying a copyright fee for your own family name. The craftsman finishes the shield. It glows in the candlelight. It is beautiful. It is garish. It is impossible to miss. And that is the problem. By painting this shield, you are making a tactical decision that goes against every instinct of survival. You are making yourself conspicuous. You are rejecting camouflage. You are standing in a muddy field, surrounded by gray steel and brown earth, screaming, "I am here. Look at me." Why? Because of the ransom economy. If you go into battle wearing plain, unadorned steel, you are an unknown to the enemy soldier. An unknown knight is just a dangerous can of meat that needs to be opened and disposed of. They will slide a knife into your visor. They will hammer your skull until it caves in. They will kill you because you have no value to them alive. But if you wear the gold and azure, if you wear the lions, now you are a payday. The enemy sees the gold leaf. They see the expensive blue. They do the mental math instantly. That man has land. That man has tenants. That man can pay. So they don't kill you. They try to capture you. This sounds like a mercy, but it is a horrific experience. To capture a knight, you have to immobilize him. They will swarm you. 3 or 4 men will grab your arms. Another will hook your leg. They will drag you off your horse and into the mud. They will sit on you. They will beat you with pummels and maces until you stop struggling, concussed and humiliated, but technically alive. You are painting a target on your chest that says, "Please beat me until I stop moving, then sell me back to my wife." The craftsman moves on to the surcoat, the linen or silk tunic you wear over your armor. He paints the same design on the fabric. This garment serves 2 purposes. It displays your heraldry, and it keeps the sun from turning your armor into an oven. It is a billboard that doubles as insulation. But fabric rips. In the first 5 minutes of the melee, your beautiful azure chevron will be slashed, muddied, and soaked in blood. The identity you paid so much to establish will become a tattered rag. Historians still argue about whether the common infantryman actually memorized the heraldry of the major knights, or if they simply looked for the amount of gold bling as a proxy for wealth. You suspect the latter. You are relying on the greed of an illiterate peasant to save your life. You are betting that his desire for a few gold coins outweighs his desire to stick a pike in your gut. The craftsman applies the varnish. The smell is sharp pine resin and oil. It seals the paint against the rain. You look at the finished pile of deer, the shield, the surcoat, the horse trapper, the cloth for the horse. It is all branded. You have successfully turned yourself into a walking logo. But there is a psychological cost to this branding. You are losing your individuality. When you put on that surcoat and raise that shield, you are no longer John or William. You are the blue chevron. You are a representative of the house. You are carrying the reputation of your ancestors on your arm. If you run away, everyone knows who ran. If you fall, everyone knows who fell. There is no anonymity in heraldry. You cannot hide in the back rank. The paint demands that you stand in the front. You have purchased a spotlight that you cannot turn off. The squire holds up the banner, the flag that will fly above your lance. It snaps in the draft from the door. It is huge. It is a windsock that will drag at your arm in the charge, adding yet another layer of difficulty to controlling the horse. But you must carry it. It looks fierce, my lord, the squire says. It looks expensive, you correct him. You think about the scutcheon, the small shield shape. You think about the tinctures, the colors. You think about the fact that if you die, this shield will be hung above your tomb in the church, slowly gathering dust until the wood rots and the paint flakes away. But for now, it is bright. It is a challenge. You realize that you have entered a strange social contract with the enemy. You have agreed to dress like a peacock, so that they will agree to treat you like an ATM. It is a civilized veneer over the savagery of war. You touch the gold leaf. It is cool and smooth. It is soft. A sword scratch will strip it away instantly. It is fragile vanity. You will march out tomorrow. You will shine. The sun will catch the gold, and for a moment you will look like the hero in the tapestry. You will look like a being of pure light and color, transcending the muck of the world. And then the arrows will start falling. And you will realize that to an archer 300 yards away, that bright blue chevron isn't a symbol of nobility. It's just a very clear aiming point for the center of mass. You have paid the painter to help the enemy aim. The heraldry is painted, the armor is polished, and the horse is shod. You ride out of the castle gate, a shining avatar of feudal power. The villagers cheer, or at least, they make the requisite noise to avoid being beaten by the bailiff. You feel magnificent. The banner snaps in the wind. The sun glints on your bassinet. That feeling lasts for exactly 6 hours. Then the campaign begins in earnest. And the campaign is not a battle. The campaign is a walk. A long, wet, endless walk through a landscape that actively hates you. You are participating in a Shavokia raid. The strategy is simple. You march through the enemy's territory, burning villages, destroying crops, and stealing cattle to goad the enemy lord into coming out to fight. It is economic warfare. But the problem with burning the countryside is that you are also marching through the ashes. The road dissolves first. Medieval roads are theoretical concepts at the best of times. After the passage of 2,000 men, 500 heavy horses, and 300 baggage wagons, the road ceases to be a thoroughfare and becomes a geological feature known as the sucking mud. It is a gray, glue-like clay that grabs the hooves of your destrier. Squelch, pop, squelch. Every step is a battle against suction. Your expensive warhorse, the high-performance athlete you have nurtured on choice oats, is now acting as a mud plow. His head droops. His coat, once glossy, is matted with filth. You watch his flanks. He is losing weight. This is the attrition of the march. A warhorse needs 20 pounds of grain a day to maintain his bulk. But the supply wagons are stuck 3 miles back, their axles buried to the hubs in the mire. So the horse eats wet grass. He eats thatch torn from the roofs of the cottages you are burning. The result is biological and immediate. The horse gets the scours. It is a polite term for violent, debilitating diarrhea. You are riding a creature that is literally shitting away its strength. You can feel his ribs starting to show through the sweat-soaked coat. Your tank is leaking fuel, and there are no gas stations in the wasteland you have created. And you? You are rusting. Historians still argue about how much armor knights wore on the march. Some say they wore the full harness to be ready for ambush. Others say they stripped down to the arming doublet and let the squires carry the steel. You, being paranoid about the investment, likely split the difference. You wear the breastplate and the bassinet, but you take off the leg armor to save weight. This leaves you in a bizarre state of half-dress, wearing a steel torso and muddy wool tights. But the rain doesn't care. It finds the metal. You feel the dampness seeping into the gambeson. The linen padding, which you cannot wash or dry, begins to rot. It develops a smell that is sweet, cloying, and nauseating, the smell of mildew warming up against human skin. You are wrapped in a fungal culture. The rust returns. Despite your nightly vigils with the vinegar and sand, the orange bloom appears in the joints of the elbows and the rivets of the gorget. Your beautiful white harness is turning into a russet harness, whether you paid for the paint or not. The shine is gone, replaced by a dull, mottled gray that speaks of neglect. Then comes the camp fever. You set up camp in a field that is already turning into a swamp. There are no latrines, or if there are, they are overflowing. Thousands of men, not in heaven, nor in hell, but on a cot that smells of lavender and expensive wool. For a moment, you panic. You reach for your sword, but your hip is light. You reach for your dagger, but your belt is gone. You sit up, your head throbbing from the concussion you received yesterday, and you realize the terrible truth. You are not dead. You are an investment portfolio. You are in the tent of the enemy knight, the man who knocked you into the mud, sat on your chest, and waited for you to gasp the word yield. By speaking that word, you signed a contract. You traded your physical freedom for your life, with the understanding that you would buy the freedom back with cash. This is the ransom. Your captor enters. He is wearing a clean tunic. He is smiling. He offers you a cup of wine. Did you sleep well? He asks. It is a surreal, grotesque hospitality. You are not thrown into a dungeon with rats. Dungeons are for criminals and peasants. You are a gentleman. You are a guest. You are treated with the utmost courtesy because you are a valuable asset. You are a winning lottery ticket, and one does not crumple a winning ticket. He sits across from you to discuss terms. This is the negotiation of the flesh. He knows your heraldry. He saw the blue chevron. He has likely already consulted a herald or a spy to estimate your net worth. He knows about the mill. He knows about the south pasture. He knows about your wife's jewelry. 500 marks, he suggests pleasantly. You choke on the wine. 500 marks? That is 3 years of your estate's gross income. That is the price of a small castle. I am a simple knight, you lie, trying to look poorer than you are. The harvest was bad. My tenants are sick. He sighs, looking disappointed, like a parent dealing with a lying child. Come now. I saw your horse. I saw the gold on your shield. Let us say 450. He is haggling over the price of your breathing. You settle on 400. It is a ruinous sum. It is a number that will echo through your family for 2 generations. But you agree. You have to. The alternative is to remain here, eating his food, while your estate falls into chaos without you. Or, if he gets bored, He might sell your ransom rights to a Genoese merchant who will be far less polite about the collection process. Now comes the parole. This is the knightly code of honor weaponized for banking. You give him your word, your parole, that you will not escape and that you will pay. In exchange, he might let you go home to raise the funds, or he might send your squire. You write the letter. Your hand shakes. You are writing to your wife. You are not telling her you love her. You are telling her to liquidate the family legacy. Sell the timber. The war is over. Not the war with the French, or the Scots, or the rebels. Those wars go on forever, fueled by the ambitions of men who are not yet tired. The war that is over is the one between your body and the iron. You are sitting in a chair by the hearth. It is a high-backed wooden chair, cushioned with a bit of worn velvet. You are 45 years old. In the village, they call you the Old Lord. To modern eyes, you would look 70. Your hair is white and thinning. Your skin is weathered like old leather left out in the sun. But the real damage is invisible, hiding under the tunic, deep in the architecture of your skeleton. You try to stand up to poke the fire. Click, grind, pop. Your knees announce the movement before you actually make it. The cartilage in your joints has been ground into a fine paste by 3 decades of riding with straight legs in heavy stirrups. You have the horseman's knees, bowed, arthritic, and constantly aching. There is a standing joke among the veterans. I don't need a herald to tell me the weather. I have a left knee that screams whenever it rains in Scotland. You straighten your back. Or you try to. This is the true legacy of the armor. The mail hauberk, that 30-pound shirt of rings you wore for 12 hours a day, has exacted its price. Gravity is relentless. For 30 years, it pulled down on your shoulders, compressing your spine. Your vertebrae have responded to this trauma by fusing. You have Schmorl's nodes, herniations of the spinal discs into the vertebrae. Your spine is a rigid column of bone, locked in a permanent stooped posture. You walk with a shuffle, leaning forward as if you are still bracing against the weight of a shield that isn't there. You are shaped like a question mark that no longer expects an answer. You look at your hands resting on the armrests. The knuckles are swollen to the size of walnuts. The fingers are crooked. This is the result of the vibration. Every time you hit a shield with a sword, every time a lance shattered against your breastplate, the shockwave traveled through your bones. Your hands are a record of every impact you ever survived. You can no longer hold a quill pen without pain. You can barely hold a spoon. You are a living wreck. You have survived the arrows and the swords, but you are being killed by the lifestyle. The diet of salted meat and wine has given you gout. Your foot swells up like a red balloon, throbbing with a pain that makes you weep in the night. The lack of vegetables has left your gums receding, your teeth loose in their sockets. And there are the old wounds, the healed fractures. You run a thumb over your forearm. There is a lump in the bone, a perifracture, from 20 years ago when you blocked a staff with your arm because you lost your shield. It healed crooked. It aches when the frost comes. You have a dent in your skull, hidden by your hair from a mace blow at a tournament. It gives you headaches that blind you for days. It makes your temper short. It makes you forget words. You are walking around with a traumatic brain injury that has no name in your century, just a vague diagnosis of melancholy, or a touch of the moon. You look at the armor standing in the corner of the hall. It is mounted on a wooden stand. It looks heroic. It shines in the firelight, polished by a squire who is terrified of you. But you hate it. You hate it with a quiet, visceral intensity. You see it not as a symbol of your glory, but as an exoskeleton that parasitized you. It protected your soft flesh, yes, but it ate your structure. It molded you. You are a soft creature that poured itself into a hard mold, and when you finally poured yourself out, you stayed in the shape of the container. You are no longer useful to the king. You cannot charge. You cannot swing. You are a karate man, a pensioner. Perhaps you have retired to a monastery. buying a small room and 3 meals a day in exchange for your last bag of gold. You spend your days praying, not for salvation, but for relief from the grinding in your hips. Historians still argue about the life expectancy of the medieval knight. Some say that if you survived the battlefield, you lived a long life of privilege. But looking at the bioarchaeology, the skeletons dug up from cathedral floors, the truth is more brutal. These were men who were physically wrecked. They show signs of os acromiolae, where the shoulder blade fails to fuse because of the stress of archery or sword fighting. They show signs of rider's facet, extra bone growth on the thigh where the legs grip the saddle. They were professional athletes in a sport with no safety regulations and no retirement plan other than death. You sit there, listening to the wind. You are waiting for the end. You hope it comes in your sleep. You hope it is not the stone kidney stones caused by the dehydration of the campaign. That is a death of screaming. Eventually, the fire goes out. The cold creeps in. The heart, thickened and tired from pumping blood through a stressed system, finally stutters and stops. You are gone. The funeral is grand. They put the armor on your corpse one last time. It fits perfectly, of course. It is the shell you grew into. They lay you in a stone sarcophagus in the local church. They carve an effigy on the lid, a knight in full plate, hands clasped in prayer, feet resting on a lion. The effigy looks peaceful. It looks smooth. It does not show the crooked fingers or the fused spine. It lies. Time passes. The centuries grind on. The roof of the church leaks. The stony roads. The name on the tomb is forgotten. And then the archaeologists come. They lift the lid. They brush away the dust. They look at your bones. They do not see a hero. They see a crime scene. They see the healed break in the tibia. They see the crushed vertebrae. They see the tooth abscess that drilled a hole into your jawbone. They see the weapon trauma, the nick in the rib where a dagger point broke off and stayed inside you for 20 years, encapsulated in bone. They lay you out on a white table under fluorescent lights. They measure your femur. They analyze your isotopes to see where you grew up. You drank the water of the north. They analyze the nitrogen in your bones to see what you ate, a lot of expensive fish and meat. One of them points to your right arm. Look at the humerus, she says. The muscle attachment sites are massive. This guy was incredibly strong. And look at the spine, her colleague replies. Fused from T4 to T12. He must have been in agony every day of his life. A knight, they conclude. Definitely a knight. You are a specimen. You are a case study in the cost of feudalism. Your skeleton is a receipt for a bill paid in calcium and marrow. There is a final dark irony to your existence. You spent your life trying to turn yourself into iron, to be hard, unyielding, and permanent. And in the end, the iron survived, but it destroyed the man inside. The armor in the museum is still shiny, still strong. It will last another 1,000 years. But the man who wore it, he is just a collection of dust and damaged bone, a biological support structure that collapsed under the weight of its own defense. You are a ghost in a machine that outlived you. But in the quiet of the lab, or the quiet of the crypt, there is a kind of peace,